Hello everybody, it's Gareth here at Podpit once again, and this week I'm joined by the wonderful Wendy Hill from Hill Start Nutrition. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. That made me really smile. Thank you. Wonderful.
Excellent, excellent. No, it's brilliant to see you, mate. Very grateful for you interviewing me for the trailer for this podcast. And I'm really excited to have you back to do a proper episode where we talk about you and what you do and the things that you talk about in your own podcast, which we'll plug as well
Thank you.
in a minute. So I'll do a quick sort of top and tail of our relationship, how we know each other, and then I'll pass over to you to do the more interesting bit, which is talking all about you and your amazing business. So Wendy and I have known each other for a number of years now. We first met each other through work. I did some work for your previous business, which was, what was the business called?
General Building Plastics, GBP.
GBP, that was it. GBP. So I did some work for you when you were in charge of that business. And then I think you exited that business and you started working on your nutrition business. And we then met again at a networking group, and that's where we started to really get to know each other and understand more about what made each other tick. And we've become really good. I mean, you're a good friend of mine now.
Yeah.
I've done bits of work for you. You've done bits of work with me as well. A couple of years back now. Can you believe it's a couple of years?
I know.
So we've got lots to chat about, and I think today's going to be a really interesting episode. But I'll shut up now and let you chat, introduce yourself and your business, and tell us what you are all about. So off you go, mate.
Thank you, Gareth. And yeah, we have got a lot to chat about, I'm sure. So yeah, like you said, this is a fairly new business for me. I sort of changed career in my mid-40s, and always loved food and was always really fascinated by the impact food has on our physical and mental health. I'm ex-building trade, and I could really see with my staff, with my customers, what they were eating affected them. I could see low energy levels, low mood and things, and I never really understood why. Understood that it was food, kind of connected that, but didn't really know much more. And so when I exited the business, it was a great opportunity for me to find out more about it. And that's when I entered the world of nutrition. And I am still learning every single day. I am nearly at the end of a naturopathic nutrition qualification. I studied just nutrition to start with, and now naturopathy goes even further and even deeper. And it's much flipping harder than I thought it was going to be, but loving every minute of it. And so, yeah, I work with people kind of on a few different levels. So I've got a great membership called Ditch the Diet, which does what it says on the tin. I'm very anti-diet, and it's very kind of food focused. It's my real passion, where I can get to be me and, I cook in front of the camera loads with my members. There's lots of recipes, but it's all sound scientific nutrition knowledge mixed in with a little bit of fun, because I think food should be fun and we just take it too seriously sometimes. So that really is my kind of, it's got to be practical, and it's got to be, you've got to be able to apply it to your life. There's no point me giving you loads of rules. It's about education, and then you take it away. I work with people one-to-one when they've got sort of more chronic problems. So particularly fatigue and digestive issues is kind of where I really like to work. And there's a lot of it about, I have to say. And there's going to be more, I think, energy is going to be a huge thing post-COVID. Mental health is directly affected to our gut health. So, I see me working with people on a one-to-one basis much more than I did before. And as you said, I am a podcaster as well. So my podcast is called Are You Really Going to Eat That? And the answer is probably yes.
No, it's a great listen to that. I do tune in, and it's a podcast I come back to. So I don't listen to episodes back to back, but I don't tend to do that anyway. I tend to listen to episodes in isolation, and it's really good. There's some really useful insight in there, and I'd recommend it anyway. But we'll make sure when I put this together, I'll make sure we get the links all in the show notes for that as well. So if people want to tune in, they can. But I think it's a great story, because you had a really successful business that you're very passionate about, but your sort of like root passion in your life has always been food. And it's been brilliant to see you follow that passion and make a really successful career out of it, because as nutritionists go, I mean, we've all been to networking groups as business owners, and you get, and I'm not going to name names of businesses here, but there are so many sort of systemized process diet plans that have become franchises that people go out and sell. And they're exactly that. It's not a diet, it's a process and a plan. So your diet is what you eat. You either have a good diet or a bad diet. And people don't seem to grasp that at all. And it's brilliant, and it's a breath of fresh air to see you come in and actually say it as it is. So hats off to you for that. So
thank you.
But yeah, we'll get the your contact links in the show notes as well, so people can have a read up and connect with you on social, on LinkedIn, and look at your website, which is really good, by the way.
Thanks.
So today we've got two topics that I really want to talk about that are really relevant for the here and now. So we've all had massive upheaval during the COVID pandemic and the lockdowns, where we've all had to shift and work at home. Productivity's been difficult for a lot of people, homeschooling children, so on and so forth. And even if you haven't got kids, working at home, if you're not used to it, can be really, really challenging. You work at home, I work at home. I never used to work at home. I was quite happy working in an office. I actually quite enjoy it now. But it was quite a big shift to get into the right mindset and be as productive here as I was in the office. So I think there's a lot of people out there struggling with that. So I think it's a really good thing to talk about eating for productivity, so fueling yourself the right way. And then the second sort of topic theme I wanted to chat about today was food in lockdown, because if any of our listeners are anything like me, you've put on weight during lockdown. I think I'm up about a stone now, so which I'm quite happy about, actually, because I've been eating terribly and I'm well aware of it. But my exercise, to be honest, I say that I'm not eating that badly at all, actually. I think my problem has been the lack of exercise and not being able to go to the gym. But there are a lot of people out there that are really struggling with weight, not being able to get out and about as much as they would do. When you're feeling down in the dumps, and we all are, you tend to reach for the comfort food, and there's been quite a lot of COVID pounds added, so a really relevant topic there as well. So I'm really excited to talk about this, because I think it'll be very, very relevant for a lot of people tuning in today. So let's kick it off with eating for productivity. So over to you, mate. Let's hear what your thoughts are on this topic.
So unsurprisingly, Gareth and I had a brief chat before this, and if you're watching the video of this, he actually just did exactly what I would have told you all to do, which is take a drink of water. And we were laughing about this because it is, like we said, we know each other from the networking world, and one of the things that I always talk about is water, is hydration, and I cannot stress important is, if anyone comes to me and they say, I'm lacking focus, I haven't got a lot of energy, I'm constipated, anything like that, the first thing I say to them is, how much water are you drinking? And it makes such a difference. Our bodies are 70% water. Our brain needs, it is mostly water. And if we don't hydrate ourselves properly and efficiently, and I don't mean loads of milky coffees, I mean actually water or herbal teas, then we are going to lose focus. And it doesn't have to just be water. Actually, there are loads of amazing herbal teas out there that really help. So things like peppermint and ginger can really help focus and kind of just get you back on track. I'm a big fan of essential oils as well. And so, sort of burning peppermint and citrus oils in the office really helps with those focus levels. But simple stuff like just drinking more water, because we all rely on caffeine, don't we?
Yeah.
That's the thing, is you go, I feel tired, I'll have a cup of coffee, whereas actually I feel tired, or I'm lacking focus, or I need to mention when was the last time you had a glass of water, would be the simplest, easiest tip I could give is make sure you're adequately hydrated. But it's brain fuel.
Yeah, I think people really forget that, and like water is our lubricant.
Yeah.
Without water, our bodies just start to shut down. And I've only recently started drinking coffee, Um, basically, whenever we used to, well, when we could go out to coffee shops with
Hot
friends,
chocolate.
I used to have, yeah,
Yeah.
terrible for it. And like my wife was so embarrassed because we'd go out with friends, like, and we'd sit down and it would be like, right, we'll have 2 lattes, a flat white, and a hot chocolate for the 12-year-old with a beard sat in the corner. So I decided I should probably try and be a proper grown up and start drinking coffee. And I've got to be honest, I can totally see where you why you talk about this so much, because I am full on addicted now. I come downstairs at 6 o'clock most mornings, and the first thing I do is whack the kettle on. And I noticed myself doing it yesterday, and I thought, bloody hell, I am actually hooked on this stuff now.
Yeah.
I only have like one, maybe two a day, but it is, when you see people drinking, down in 6 or 7 cups a day, you just think you need to drink more water.
Yeah.
You really do, because isn't it something like 4 glasses a day as a minimum or something like that?
And the rest, it's more than that. It's double that. 7 or 8 glasses a day is what you want. So 7 or 8 glasses of water or herbal tea or whatever. And if you're having a really, like I drink Americanos, and I don't mind admitting that I like my coffee. I actually did a detox and I cut out caffeine, and I only have 2 a day, a bit like you, 2 a day, but I love the taste. And I cut out caffeine for 2 weeks, and I haven't really gone back. I might have the odd one, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, but I do drink decaf now.
Yeah.
But if you're drinking a long coffee, you do get a little bit of hydration. There is this whole it's negative hydration, and if you're having a shot, it might be, but you do get an element of it. But you should just really discount it. Just totally discount coffee or tea. Discount that, and then it's 7 or 8 cups of water or herbal teas. I'm a huge fan of herbal teas as well. They're great for digestion, for like mental clarity and stuff. They can do so much more than just a drink, so why not have a double benefit?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sorry, I should clarify there. My glasses in my house, I tend to have pints. So
okay.
So I do like 4 pints a day. And,
yeah.
But what I try to do is, if I have a cup of coffee, I'll add on an extra like half a pint.
That's
a
brilliant tip. That's a really, really good tip, is kind of having that kind of either water, like they do it on the continent a lot, and we don't do it over here. And I don't know why. Is either coffee with a glass of water is a great way of kind of cleansing the palate, but also making sure you're having the water at the same time. It's a really good way of doing it.
I have one of the people who are listening won't be able to see this, but I've got a Nike sports bottle here, which I think is about a pint, give or take. So I have one of the
more, but might be like, I think they're about 750 ml, so kind of like a pint and a half or something.
Well, I'll have one of these in the morning, and when I go and fill it up at lunchtime, I'll refill it.
Brilliant.
And then, so that's, well, if that's 3 pints there, you broke the back of it there, haven't you? So
exactly.
But water and herbal teas are right. Here's one you might be able to dispel a myth for me. So I was on Instagram the other day, and I was looking at Eddie Hall, the strongman from Stoke-on-Trent, who won Strongest Man. Now he's really making a career for himself in the fitness world now. He's a very successful guy, and he put a post out saying whole milk is more. It can hydrate you quicker than water. Is that true?
Honestly, I don't know. I can't see how. But I'd have to look at the science behind it. My gut reaction, always tricks your gut. My gut reaction is going, can't see how it would, because it's got fuel in it as well. Like I'm not saying milk is a really good post-workout drink. There's been loads of research done on this, and lots of the footballers and stuff will now have chocolate milk. Why chocolate milk? I don't know. Perhaps they're all bearded teenagers like you. But a chocolate milk is kind of like now renowned as like the best recovery drink, because of it's got great minerals in it and because of the protein and stuff. So I would say, if you were asking me a different question, I would say yes, it's a great post-recovery drink, but I can't see how it would make you more hydrated. So I'm not saying no, but my gut is saying I can't see how. Plain water surely has to be the best. And then I kind of get like things like coconut water as well, because it has sort of elements in it that help with the hydration. But for most people like us, we're not supermen, are we? We're not, working out. Well, we're probably not working out much at the minute anyway. So plain old water will do the trick. So I'm sitting on the fence on that one, but I don't think so.
I must admit, when I looked at it, I thought, I can't see that.
No.
But then, Eddie Hall, strongest man in the world, knows a lot about food, because he had to eat a ton of it, something ridiculous like 10,000 calories a day just to maintain his weight, and when he was bulking it'd be more, maybe double that, you know.
It's
so
mad, isn't it? The thing is, I think the thing with the food industry, and this is the tough thing about the food industry and the industry I work in, is, you know, the first thing is headlines, you know, kind of like moderation never makes headlines. So the food industry or the news industry around food love a headline. So they will take one comment out of a study of, you know, 20,000 people, and one person or 1% of this study will have had a better hydration result from milk, and that makes the headline. And it's really difficult because they will pull something that is, you know, shocking, or, you know, and they'll just pull that out. And, you know, if you want to, I bet you could find a study that would say that you can lose weight by eating McDonald's chicken nuggets and nothing else. You know, it's like, I'm not saying the McDonald's chicken nuggets are the worst food in the world, but it's, you know, you can find it's so headline driven. It's really difficult. And that's one of the things that annoys me. And one of the things that I hope I do is kind of like go, really, is, you know, does that make sense? And is that kind of, like you said, it's not logical, is it? And I'm sure there's a study behind it, and I'm sure there's some facts behind it. But for me, I'm going, maybe.
But water is the key, though, isn't it? Like, we went off on a bit of a tangent there, didn't we? But no, I think deep down as well, we all know this stuff. You know, we all know we should probably drink more water. Like a good friend of ours, David Whitehouse, who I know you've done a little bit of stuff with when he was doing his Ironman training. He's terrible for Pepsi Max. He is.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. Terrible. And it's like, but also what I would say is it's better than what he did before. And this is part of the kind of, you know, the thing is, for me, I'm going, I can't believe you drink that. But actually, I think he was a big Pepsi drinker, wasn't he? Just Pepsi full stop. And so now he goes, well, Pepsi Max is better. And you're like, marginally, but yeah. And this is the, you know, it's all relative, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, I'm terrible for Coke Zero, Pepsi Max in lockdown. I've been terrible for it. Yeah. I really I like the sort of refreshing sort of taste that a fizzy drink brings, and that's probably been one of the things that has added to my kilos probably most, because I don't drink alcohol at all, really. I can't remember the last time I had a beer. I like a beer, but I don't tend to drink a lot of it. So, I mean, obviously all the pubs are shut at the minute anyway, but yeah, I always go back to it, like water. Like when I used to play rugby, a lot of people would be like banging in Lucozade and Gator and all of this shit, and you think, oh my goodness, just drink water. I used to come off at half time and have a big bottle of water and an slice of orange. Like we had that when we were kids. I just carried on. Like the best things you can have, like real food, isn't it? Real food.
Totally. And another one, just come back to your question about productivity. The other thing that I would say is good fats, because again, you know, it's one of the things that we don't have is really good fats in our diet, and it's really good for concentration, really good for hormone balance, really great for our brain. Our brain needs good omega-3s for concentration and stuff. So that's the other thing that I would say. My number 2 tip is omega-3s. Basically, I'm talking about nuts, seeds, oily fish, and if you don't get enough, take a supplement. It's one of the few supplements that I'll say to people, add it. If you're not having enough, have the supplement. Great for joints as well. So particularly, you know, if you've done a lot like you have, you know, you've been an athlete, you know, rugby, it takes its toll on your body, doesn't it? It takes its toll on your joints, and it can really help with your joint motility, and kind of help with those kind of pains and aches and things as well. So it's a really good, it's one of the things that keeps in common. Have you heard of blue zone areas?
No.
It's some areas in the world that particularly have health for longer. So the average population lives longer, but also lives healthier. And that's the key, is the health in longevity. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Sorry.
That's all right. It's not been continuous, that, has it?
No, we just suddenly go, cough. It's not COVID. So health in longevity. And one of the key things that they all tend to have is tend to eat seasonally. They tend to have a great community feel about them as well. These are like isolated populations, but actually really good omega-3s in their diet. Lots of fish-based is one of the other key things that they have. And there's been lots of research around that. And they're just saying that that's one of the key drivers, lots of inflammation in our kind of current eating habits, and this helps all of those things. So yeah, if you're not having enough, then get a really good quality fish oil supplement, and you'll probably notice that your focus is better, your mood is better, and kind of like joint pain, it can really help with that as well.
It's interesting. I think the Scandinavian nations are quite hot on that sort of thing, aren't they? I'm pretty sure that they're Sweden. Was it Iceland as well? I don't know if Iceland is Iceland Scandinavian.
I'm not sure, but yeah, those kind of countries, and there's a couple like Sardinia is a blue zone country as well, and there's a place in America that is, but certainly the Scandinavian countries, because they eat lots of oily fish, so they eat lots of like kind of rollmot, so herrings and kind of that kind of fish. Whereas we have, even when we eat fish in the UK, so salmon is probably the only oily fish that people consume, and we should be eating 2 to 3 portions a week. Most people don't have that. So you're talking like mackerel, sardines, herring, anchovies. These are your oily fish, and actually they don't feature that much on most people's diet. When you say do you eat fish, it's kind of cod or sea bass and that kind of food. Haddock,
I just said hammock then, but no, it's haddock, isn't it?
You said haddock, you're right. You could have got away with that.
Yeah, no, but I love fish. I love it, but we don't, as a family, we don't eat a lot of it. But I went through a phase when we first started working together where I was eating a lot of mackerel. Those little
you were,
tins.
weren't you? Yeah.
And I wasn't really thinking about productivity. I was thinking more about the protein because I was training a lot in the gym. But they were so cheap as well. Like they were like less than £1 per tin, and I just used to have one of those on some brown toasted bread, or salad, or with rice, and it was brilliant lunch. And I used to bang them in like 3 or 4 times a week. So. But you are right there. I think our default in this country is to go to meat, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's not always the best quality meat as well. And that's, I'm really big on kind of environmental and, eating seasonally and supporting, farming. I'm not a vegan and I never will be. I eat meat, but I am really conscious about the quality of the meat. And I think if people realize what was in a lot of the meat that we're eating, you wouldn't be surprised that we're having the mental health issues that we're having now. They are just stuffed full of hormones and chemicals and just crap that you just don't need. So it's about perhaps choosing better. So like you said, tin mackerel, great, brilliant, really cheap food to have. And if you can do that and substitute maybe what might have been a more expensive lunch meal and spend a bit more on the meat that you're eating in the evening, and buy better quality, would be, for me, a much better balance. Is thinking about that quality, supporting local farms, looking where your meat comes from, how it's produced, what it's got in it. Happy meat. I mean, it's shown that happy meat tastes better. It genuinely does. And yes, it costs more, but actually, what price for our health?
Yeah. Well, you shouldn't really put a price on that, should you? So
no.
But that's good. That's good number 2. Oily fish. So my nan was right all those years when she said fish is good brain food.
She was.
She's right because Wendy says so. So there we go.
Wendy and your nan said fish is good brain food. Definitely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Sound. So water, omega-3, oily fish are the first 2 top tips really for productivity and eating well for that. Have you got any other tips that you'd like to sort of add into the mix on this one?
Yeah, so I've always got loads of tips, but I would say the other one that I'll share with you is thinking about kind of what you're eating, and I mean that in a very general term, but actually thinking about how it is fueling yourself. So again, is it healthy? Is it going to help your productivity if you skip lunch and then eat Haribos all afternoon? Really isn't going to help. And so it's really about kind of drilling down into that food that you're having and saying, is this gonna serve me? Is this gonna help my, my productivity, my concentration, my ability to get this task done? And I think if you just spend a little bit of time thinking generally about that. So for me, it's about, kind of making sure your plate is fairly balanced. So I loved what you said about, you had a tin of mackerels, cheap as chips, and then you might have it on brown toast. Well, that's great. But then what can we add for colour? Can we add some tomatoes? Can we add a side salad? Like you said, some days you have it on salad. And it's about kind of looking at your plate and saying, is this giving me anything, or is it just a plate of beige, basically?
Yeah.
Or sometimes a plate of nothing. And it always amazes me how, as we're all running our own businesses here, and if we're not, we've still got to concentrate. You don't get employed and then not have to do the job. But it amazes me how we think that our body is going to perform when we are either not feeding it or kind of just giving it a bit of sugar or a bit of fat or something. And you're like, well, how do you expect to get the best out of it? You in your car, you wouldn't kind of go to the dodgy petrol station and have that like third class petrol and then expect to have a performance car, would you? And it's the same with your body. Put crap in, get crap out. It is, it really is as simple as that. If you are eating crappy processed foods, whatever it might be, then you're going to get a crappy processed brain. There's no sugarcoating it. Excuse the pun.
Yeah, no, you're right. You absolutely, like when you put it out there in plain English like that, it's so obvious. I've got another car analogy there. Like, you can run a diesel engine on used chip fat oil. You can. It won't be very good for the engine though, but people have done it because it's cheap. And then complain when they've got to spend thousands on a new engine because they've completely knackered the engine.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same principle for what you're saying there. Crap in, crap out.
Yeah.
So,
and the thing is I see lots of people who've done that, who've kind of done that thing. They come to see me when they're in their late 40s, early 50s, typically, and they are bloody worn out because they haven't, they haven't fed their body very well. And, they've had really stressful jobs. They've not relaxed properly. They've ate the wrong food and not exercised and all these things. It's, it's a whole, it's not just about saying eat 3 portions of oily fish and you're going to be all right. It is a whole thing. And they come to me and they're overweight, they're worn out, they're super stressed, they've got no energy, men, no libido, no get up and go, want to stay in bed all day. And then they wonder why. And it's because they've just not taken care of themselves. We only get one body. We can't part exchange it. This is it for life.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a really good guy on Instagram I follow, James Haskell, the rugby player.
Yes.
Former rugby player.
Yeah.
And he's brilliant at this. And I think if you ever met him, I think you'd have a field day because you'd get on so well. He got a load of heat on social media the other week because he promoted McDonald's or something. And people were criticizing him. How can you say on one hand you're healthy and you're promoting, healthy living, and you've got a gym brand and you've got this, that, and the other, and you've got connections with food supplement chains, and then you go and promote McDonald's. And his point was basically everything it should be done in moderation. So you could, like, his point was, you could eat a McDonald's every week. He says, who doesn't like a Big Mac? He said, I bloody love a Big Mac. He did this big rant on Instagram and it was hilarious looking back. I bet he regrets it a little bit now, but his point was, as long as you are getting your exercise in and you're eating well and you're eating real food the majority of the week, you could get away with having 1 or 2 McDonald's meals a week if you really wanted to. And it was really interesting. So that's another account to follow, James Haskell on Instagram, because he's not only a big hard ass rugby player, but he talks a lot of sense about nutrition and exercise.
And I couldn't agree more. It is it's ridiculous that the kind of the levels that we put on our food. Yes, we are totally in control of what we put in our body, but hey, we all live in the real world. So for me, if you listen to my podcast, it should be sponsored by a pizza company, because I think I talk about pizza every single episode. It's my favorite food. I'm having actually I'm having takeaway pizza tonight for tea, so there you go. And doing wine tasting. This is
Excellent.
living in the real world. And that's the point. Is food, we set these kind of like expectations, and then there's an element of, oh well, I've kind of failed if I, it's kind of, I didn't start the day well, or I had a McDonald's for breakfast, so I might as well just eat crap for the rest of the day. Well, no, it was just one meal, it was just one choice. And yes, in a balanced world, a little bit of McDonald's or pizza and beer does not do you any harm at all. And actually, there's great joy in that. If you're taking your kids to McDonald's because they love it, then there's that whole social element. There's that kind of element of connection. And so, yeah, I don't have a problem. No, I don't believe there's good and bad food. I think it's about how you balance it and about how you think about it that's more important.
I think it's that relationship that we have as human beings with food now, because of our lifestyle choices and the way we live. Everything's fast, fast, fast.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think we have become accustomed to like eating like poorer quality food. And I'm trying to think where I was going with this. The point I'm trying to make is we almost have like an unhealthy relationship with food because of the way, the pace of life.
Yeah.
We automatically assume that people who are super fit and healthy like live on a diet of salad and chicken and broccoli, like, but it couldn't be further from the truth. There's one of the top rugby teams in this country, London Irish. A few years ago, there was an interview I was listening to with a guy called Shane Geraghty. He was a fly half for them, so he was a super fit athlete at the top of his game at the time. He played for England as well, and he was saying after a game of rugby, these elite level athletes were given free rein to eat whatever they wanted because they just played a game of rugby at a frantic pace, the height of physicality in sport. Their bodies were crying out for everything, anything and everything. So they used to gouge down on a couple of pizzas each after a game of rugby. And I think the relationship most people have with food would look at that and go, well, that can't be right, because they assume these elite athletes would just be given chicken and rice after a game, but actually they could eat what they want.
Yeah, and life would be so sad, wouldn't it, if we were all there's have you heard of Tom Brady? Are you into your American football?
I know about Tom Brady, yeah.
And so he is kind of the exception to the rule, and I have to say he's an amazing athlete, and and I really admire him, and his career is just phenomenal. But actually, what a lot of the kind of like the presenters and stuff talk about is the fact that he maintains that consistently. He eating the Tom Brady way. And when you look at what he eats, you're like, I would rather not be him and have pizza, to be honest. I mean, God, don't tell me, he's married to Giselle and he's got like an amazing, like, and they're so wealthy, but actually, I couldn't live like that. That is not me. And so I want a bit of fun. I want to have a cocktail when we get chance. I want to have a cocktail with my friends. I want to go out and, and have a greasy burger. But it is about, the balance. And I think most people out there benefit much more from that balance than following the Tom Brady diet, because it is impossible to do for most human beings.
Yeah, and I would argue that is as unhealthy a relationship with food than someone who's the other end of the scale. Yeah. So you've got someone who's eating so clean, he's starving his body of those little treats of sugar, for example, that don't do you any harm as long as you're not eating them every single day. That's quite, and it leads me into a future episode for Podpit where I'm going to be speaking to, I don't think you met him, but my old training partner from the gym in Lichfield, Matt.
I've never met him, no.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen videos about training sessions together, but Matt is a really, really, really great guy. I've known him years, but we only really got to know each other a couple of years ago. He was a competitive bodybuilder, and he's got an amazing physique. And when he's in his off season, I look at his physique and I think, you're not looking too bad, son. And he'll say, oh, I'm fat at the minute. And it's a completely different sort of mentality, because I think your off season is like what most people would aspire to be like.
Yeah.
And he was saying that when he was competing and on stage a lot, it isn't a healthy relationship you have with food at all, because their aim is to get the body fat down, and it's really not healthy, that. So there are two extremes, two sides to every coin, and food is no exception.
No. I looked into sport, because I quite like sport, and so I looked into sports nutrition, and I did a train to gain kind of certification, and I tell you what, it is soul destroying. They were like, how do you fix your diet? And it was a woman that was doing it. She'd been a professional bodybuilder, and she was talking about how to get that extra little bit. And it was literally, she said, well, what you'll do is you'll swap your protein just for your breakfast. So they have like chicken and rice like 6 times a day, and then measure it out, and it's in a little container, and that's it, chicken and rice, that's all you're getting. And she'll say, oh, well, you'll add like an extra 25 grams of chicken to your breakfast for 7 days and see if there's any impact. And if there isn't, and I'm like, no, just stop, forget it. It's just, that's not happening for me.
Nah.
It's like nothing more. I love food. I want to eat. I'm hungry. Plain chicken and rice 6 times a day. No thanks.
I mean, I'll eat that once or twice, but not 6 times a day. And I'm not being funny, I ain't measuring my food to that level. Like 6 times a day. Christ.
I'll do a handful. If you do a handful. So I do lots of recipes. It's quite funny because I obviously, as part of my membership, they get a weekly recipe, and I struggled for ages to write up my recipes. So I had a big bank of kind of stuff that I do, but actually it would be like a bit of a handful of some. And you're like, you can't write a recipe like that. And I have to kind of start to think about it. I love American cups because they're kind of much rougher measurement, but I have to now be more precise when I'm cooking, because I have to reproduce this. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm like, I'm not gonna like exactly measure something and then serve it out. And and if I'm hungry, I'm gonna have an extra spoonful. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I look at the packets for some things that we buy, and it's like serves 4. It's like, nah, serves Gareth. Get in there. Like, I just think like we're all different, aren't we? We are all. I've got a mate who used to play rugby. He was 6'8" and the best part of 20 stone, but he was a big, strong guy. There wasn't a lot of fat on him. But are you telling me he needs 2,500 calories a day to fuel himself? Because exactly. I don't think so.
It's not, isn't it? It's like, it's kind of like the average person and stuff. And like you said, portion control, like, yes, there should be an element of portion control, but exactly the same. And even down to the 2 litres a day. If you think about it, I'm 5'3", my husband's 6'2". Do we need the same amount of water a day? Of course we don't. And I know you have to give people an idea. And that, and there has to be, people want numbers. They want to know, how many portions of fruit and veg should I have a day, how much water should I have. People want that, but actually, well, it depends how big you are, it depends how much you move around, it depends what else you're eating. It is it is really personal, and that's why diets don't work, because they're made for the masses and they're rules. And actually, you are a unique person. You have a unique build, you have a unique physique, and you have a unique lifestyle and taste. And the average diet, you're not average. It ain't never going to work, is it?
Yeah. I think it comes back to this relationship with food, isn't it? Like humans, we like a system, we like a process. We like to be told what we need to do and when to do it and how often to do it. But as you say with food, the relationship we built up with food is, your relationship with food is your relationship with food. You can't really have it dictated by anybody else. You need to work it out yourself, but you need to do the things that we all know that we should be doing. So that's probably another top tip, really. Sort your own head out, stop getting stressed about it, and just be sensible. Use your common sense.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I think, you couldn't put it really succinctly. It is, as much as, I probably do myself out of a job here, but actually I rarely tell people stuff that they don't know. A bit of science might be, but actually, drink more water, have a more colourful plate. Everyone will go, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I kind of knew that anyway. It's just about that creating the habits and kind of listening to it and kind of doing a bit of a check-in, really, and saying, actually, where, have I slipped? What has gone by the wayside? What I don't want to say bad habits, because I don't like to talk about food in those terms, but what am I doing not as well as I could do, is a really good way of just kind of like checking back in with yourself and going, actually, am I doing the best I can, or
Yeah.
have I kind of got a bit lazy, let's say, about it?
Yeah. I think that's probably something for everyone to take away is look at your diet and go, right, if you know that you are eating 4 chocolate bars a day, by the time we exit lockdown, you need to have got that down to 1 a day. And the easiest way to do that is sensibly going, right, for the next week, I'm only going to have 3 a day. And the
Yeah.
week after that, I'm only going to have 2 a day.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'm down to 1 and happy days. We might try and go down to every other day then. But then you've got to be sensible and and commit to it and be strict with yourself. And you also then need to think, okay, well, what am I going to replace those with? So if I'm going down from 4 to 1, what are the 3 being replaced with? Could be a banana, could be an apple, natural sugars. So you're still getting your sugar kick, but it's from fundamentally much better quality food.
Yeah. And for me, I think that's a really great tip, and I love what you're saying. But actually, for me, I often turn it around with clients. So if they come to me and I can see that they've got like lots of snacks and things in their diet, rather than tell them not to have those, what I'll do is look at the actual meals that they're eating. And then what you find sometimes is if you if you have a better breakfast and a better lunch, that you don't reach for those snacks. So they automatically drop by the wayside. A bit like, I didn't say drink less caffeine necessarily, it was drink more water, because by drinking more water, you're more hydrated and you don't reach for that coffee. So instead of reaching for the coffee, reach for the water. You can still have the coffee, but you won't, because of the water. And it's the same thing with it. So if you eat a good breakfast kind of with protein, with some good fruits with it, and some good, omega-3. So, something like a good smoothie or porridge with strawberries and some chia seeds. I love my chia seeds. Then actually you won't get that morning slump, and you won't eat that chocolate bar. You won't reach for it. You'll suddenly get to lunchtime and go, oh, actually it's lunchtime and I'm not hungry. How did that happen? It's amazing.
It's common sense again, isn't it? It's common sense and having that knowledge and being strict with yourself. Excuse me. So I'm just conscious of time, because we've spoken a lot about this food for productivity, but I do think it's really relevant, and I'm glad that we've managed to get this recorded. This one is probably, I don't know how you want to approach this, but I did prompt you with it. So food in lockdown, I think everyone, and it kind of follows on from this productivity thing, doesn't it really? So they do link quite well, but I don't know how you want to sort of approach this, but I would like to maybe sort of like focus in on that for a minute. So how do you think people's relationship with food has changed during lockdown?
So I think there's always been two camps, isn't there? So I actually recorded a podcast episode back in May. So my episode number 34, and I'm on like 70 something now. So that's how long ago it was. Called weight gain in lockdown. So that's how, this isn't a new thing that we're talking about now. We were talking about it, a few weeks in to the first lockdown. And there is a bit of science behind it. And I think for me, there's an element of giving yourself a little bit of a break and saying, actually, you know what? This isn't the worst thing that could happen. So stress, we are all massively stressed at the moment. And part of our body's physiological reaction to stress is to say something really bad is going to happen. So what I need to do in the whole ancient world is hold on to everything just in case there's a famine coming, because that could be what's happening. And there is, an element of that we're going to hold on to it. So it's kind of like, give yourself a bit of a break, really, if you put a few pounds on. Now, if you've put like 3 stone on, maybe there's another element to it. But the first thing is give yourself a break. It's a natural stress reaction. And I would also say, take this a few steps down the line. And if your job going forward is really, really stressful, are you holding on to weight because actually you're not managing that stress reaction in your body? So forget about just weight gain during lockdown. If you've got a super stressful job because it affects your hormone levels and you're not managing them correctly, and you're not relaxing properly, stress is okay, but not stress all the time, then that might be why you can't lose weight. Lots of people come to me and go, oh, I eat really well and I can't lose weight and I can't understand why. And it's like, well, I'm not even going to look at what you're eating. What else is going on in your life?
Yeah.
And if you're super stressed, that can be an element of it.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I will say is, what is your comfort food, Gareth? You know, when you were little, and
Yeah.
you know, and you were feeling a bit under the weather or not very happy,
Chocolate.
what was the comfort food that you had?
Chocolate. Terrible for it. I am.
Yeah.
I
So
have
it
an
wasn't
awful sweet tooth.
it wasn't quinoa, or it wasn't oily fish. It was chocolate.
Yeah.
And it is, you know, this is it. This is our heritage. This is what we've grown up with, you know, is when you are sad, when you are worried, when you are concerned. Unfortunately, our parents didn't feed us quinoa salad as a comfort food. And if they did, that would be the food that you're eating. But they didn't. So you go for those comfort things because that's what your brain tells you is a comforting food. And
Yeah.
whether or not it is physically, that's what you've been brought up to kind of associate it with.
Yeah, I think those sort of like hearty meals from what you remember as a kid, like I always go with like mashed potato and
Yeah,
sausages, bangers and mash,
I love bangers and mash.
like hearty sort of, you know,
Stew
minty
and dumplings.
pies. Yeah, those like really gorgeous, like wintry sort
Yeah,
of like heavy, rich, dense meals. You always tend to sort of like go to that, and like if it's like the middle of summer, it might not be as something as dense as that because that's kind of like a winter food really in my head. But I'm terrible for a curry,
yeah.
like
And
because
we
it's
call
still
it
that
comfort
rich.
food. If you think about
Yeah,
it, it has that word associated with it. If you said comfort food, you know, I use that term all the time, and it is stews and curries, and it is, and you know, they still can be healthier. They don't have to be unhealthy versions, but that is that kind of what we go for. It's what
yeah,
we're gonna go, because there is that element, I think, of wanting to sustain our bodies. You know, we want to put on that fat, we want that resilience, because if we were skinny, if we're underweight and we get a virus, I'm not talking about the pandemic, I'm talking about any kind of virus or
yeah,
infection, you know, then we haven't got the natural resources to fight it. So it's our body's natural reaction to kind of put on weight. No, I'm not saying it's not the best thing. We've all seen the stats. The heavier you are, you know, people who are overweight deal with COVID much less efficiently than people who are fitter and healthier.
yeah,
But it doesn't take away from the fact that, you know, we're going to eat chocolate for comfort food because
yeah,
it's scary, and we don't, you know, we want some comfort at the end of the day. It's difficult, it really is. And I think sometimes we just need to say, this is okay, it is what it is, and you know, make some better choices. But actually, rather than beat yourself with a stick over it, sit back and say, why am I doing this? Why has it happened?
yeah.
And then you're in a more, again, a better position to be able to take some control.
I think everything that you're saying here rings so true with me because I'm very, very aware that I'm not eating as well as I could be. I'm not exercising anywhere near as much as I should be or have been. But when we first started working with each other, I was quite significantly overweight, and I didn't have a particularly good relationship with food. I didn't have a very good relationship with food. I also wasn't exercising at all, and I think I was tipping in the scales at about 16 and a half stone,
Yeah.
which is quite heavy considering I'm about 5'11". I'm just trying to do the maths here. So
And
I was,
you
I was,
couldn't exercise, could you? The thing is you were carrying the weight, you weren't eating brilliantly, and it was kind of this like vicious cycle, wasn't it? You had no energy because you weren't eating very well, and you were carrying. Shall I go back? Cool.
yeah, go now, yeah,
Cool. So yeah, so you know, it was a bit of a cycle, wasn't it? You weren't exercising because you couldn't, because you were carrying injuries, because you had no energy, because you weren't fueling your body very well, and it became this vicious cycle of no energy, eating badly, feeling crap, not
yeah,
doing any exercise, feeling worse, and it just, you were in this like hamster wheel, weren't you?
yeah, yeah. It was horrible, really. But as soon as I started to make myself, and like it was your input that really made me aware of all of this, and it's awareness of what you're doing. Like this time around, I know I'm not eating particularly well, but no, I'm not eating anywhere near as badly as I
Yeah.
was. And I'm also acutely aware that there is an end to this top period in time. And now we've been given a date of the 21st of June. Should we tick all of the boxes, we're going to be past this and things will start to get back open. Now, the gyms are supposed to be back open on the 12th of April, and that is my first date that I'm working to. So I'm starting to put in things in process now to prepare myself to be ready to go back and train, because I know what I'm like. I'll go back and I'll start trying to do what I was doing before, and I'll hurt myself because we've had a year out basically, and most people haven't done anywhere near as much as they should have done. But I think the point I'm sort of trying to get to here in a roundabout way is it's our awareness of what we're putting into our bodies now. Our relationship with food has changed during lockdown, but now we have an end in sight to that. People do need to recognize that they need to change their habits now to put them in a better position as we exit.
Yeah. And it is, I think habit is the key that you've got there. When we first went into lockdown, it was an unusual thing. Now, like you said, we've been in it a year and we have created new habits. And now we need to sit back and think about what new habits do we need to create post COVID, and let's hope that they're better than, possibly even better than the habits we had before, but it needs to be slow and it needs to be gentle, and you need to be looking at the changes and just change one thing, whatever, have a look at your diet and go, if I'm eating 4 chocolate bars, that was a great analogy. If I'm eating 4 chocolate bars, can I just have 1 less chocolate bar this week? And that is one change, a positive change. If you're not having breakfast, or if you're having, sugary sweet cereal for your breakfast, then can I have porridge and berries for a couple of weeks? And once that becomes habit, then the next change feels easier. The problem is we try and change everything together. Like you said, you go back to the gym and you expect to be in the position that you were before, and you're not. You've got to be careful. You've got to build back up to that. And it's the same with your diet. You can build back up to a really good, healthy, nourishing diet. But if you do it all in one go, it's a mountain. Tiny steps is the way to go, and it becomes habit and you don't even notice. And suddenly you think, wow, this amazing food that I'm eating 3 months ago would have been entirely different, but it's been easy because I've just done one thing at a time.
Yeah, I think that's another big tip, really, a takeaway for everyone, is we all really know the bad things that we're doing with our food at the minute. We're all acutely aware of it. You just need to be a bit more aware of it. And I think if we can all go away from this and say, right, I'm going to change one thing, whatever that thing may be, if you can do that and do that continuously for 3 weeks with incremental changes, I'm sure it was 21 days, and then things become habits. I think it's that 3-week period, isn't it? Yeah. So in 3 weeks, we'll be a lot closer to, the end than we are now. It's pretty simple, really, isn't it? But it's those incremental small changes that will ultimately lead to a better result when we do exit lockdown. So I'm just conscious of time. So have you got any sort of summary sort of top tips to wrap us up on food in lockdown?
Yeah, let's do that. So I would say food in lockdown is, first thing is, give yourself a break. It is lockdown, it is unusual, it's stressful. So, don't be too hard on yourself. And then the same rules apply. So, you try and eat as much vegetables and fruit as you can, particularly vegetables. You can't overeat on veg. So, have veg with everything. Green leafy veg is the answer to.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same stuff as we were talking about before. So, give yourself a break first and foremost. It's an unusual circumstance. Don't be so hard on yourself. Try and eat. Second tip is eat as much colour as you can. You can't overeat on vegetables. So add more veg to your plate. Green leafy veg is the answer to everything at the moment. And then I think the third tip is kind of just just look at every meal as an opportunity to do something better and to be kind to yourself. And if every meal that you have, you look and go, am I being kind to myself by feeding my body this? That's a strong question to be answering yourself, and actually will make some really big differences really quickly.
Yeah, yeah. Really, really, really simple stuff, but sometimes the answer's right there in front of you and you just don't see it. But these little simple things that you can start to implement today will make a big difference. So, no, thank you for that. Um, just quickly before we sort of wind this down, we've got the tips for food in lockdown and things you can do now to better yourself. Eating for productivity. Should we just recap while we're in this sort of summary section? The top tips that we put in there.
Yeah, sure. So, and again, like I said, we can apply this to diet. It doesn't have to be just this, but I would say so. Fluid, water, number one for productivity. Your brain needs water for it. The other one is omega-3s, oily fish, those kind of things. That's great for your brain health. Lots of other things as well, but really great for your brain health. And I think the third one that I would say is, again, fuel your body well. So, look at that, what are you eating and how is it fueling your body? So if you are, Haribo's is my favorite one to do, but if you were sitting there snacking on Haribo's all afternoon, then that means you didn't have a good lunch. So have a great breakfast, have a really good lunch. You've got a lot of work to do and you need to fuel that body well, and sugar just isn't going to hack it.
Yeah, it certainly won't hack you for long. It might sort of get you through a few days, but
Yeah,
you start to become reliant on it, and then your productivity is going to fall through the floor, and you're going to be relying on it then. So,
exactly.
so
Eat
yes,
crap, get crap. That should have been my number 3. Eat crap, get crap. I'm
yeah,
changing my mind.
yeah. No. But it's easy to remember those little sort of phrases like that. So no, that's brilliant. So, well, it's been great chatting today. It's been brilliant to catch up and talk to you about these topics that are so relevant right now. So I'd like to thank you. We're going to wrap up there, but I will, as I said before, put all of your details in the show notes to this episode. So
Thank you.
all of that will go in there. And if anybody out there is struggling with food in lockdown or looking to be more productive and they think food could help them get there, if you want more in-depth information about this, do get in touch with Wendy, because as you said earlier on as well, you're going to be doing a lot more one-to-one coaching as we exit lockdown. So if you are looking for support in this area, there is no better place to start than getting in touch with Wendy. So
Thanks, Gareth. It's been great to catch up with you. It's been brilliant. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
no worries, and we'll see you very soon. Hopefully, mate, I'll be up in the Midlands as soon as this lockdown ends, and we'll go
That will be
out.
great, won't it? I can't wait to kind of just see people in real life.
Yeah, we'll definitely get together and go for a beer at some point. So lovely.
Brilliant. Looking
Nice
forward
one.
to it.
Cheers, mate. Take care. Bye.
Bye.